And before we get into our prayer time, let's take a quick look at these verses from Nahum. Now, my question to you is, I have a short memory. Have we been over these verses before?
No.
Don't think so?
We all have a short memory.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, not only that, and even if we have, repetition won't be bad. I may have told you before that as a teacher at Moody, I focused on two things. That's all. A piece of chalk in my hand. I like to write on the board. And then a class of students. That's it. And what I mean by that is I had blinders on at Moody. I really didn't pay that much attention to what was going on campus. And then some years ago, things at Moody began to go this way. Down, 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 down. Lots of trouble and difficulty. And so finally, I got my head out of the sand and asked myself the question, what is the problem here? Why have things been going so poorly? And I compared my start at Moody with that point there, like 34 years later, 33 years later. Oh, when I first came to Moody, it was like a little heaven on earth. It was wonderful. The school was organized, good leaders. We were heading the right decision. God was just blessing the Institute. And then I just felt like things started coming apart about 5 years previous. And so I gave a lot of thought to it. What is the problem? And I came to the conclusion, one word: leadership. Bad leadership. And then that day or the next day we had a faculty meeting. Now you got some board of trustees members there, you got the president, vice president, the deans there as well as the faculty there, and one teacher stands up and says, the problem with Moody is bad leadership in the past 5 or 10 years. He was dead right. And after that faculty meeting was over with, I sought that teacher out. And I said, yesterday or the day before, I came to the very same decision you did. Now, that teacher was one of our best teachers, one of our very best teachers. And the next year, he resigned. And the president called him into the office and said, why are you resigning? He said, Dr. So-and-so, he's my immediate superior. And the president said, I want you to reconsider. And he said, I'm not reconsidering. I am leaving this school. Oh, we lost a good man because of that. And maybe I've said this to you before, that the Marine Corps is known for outstanding leadership. Why? If you can't lead well, you get your men killed on the battlefield, not the enemy. And the Marines are smart. They don't assume their officers will make good leaders. So, they're automatically good leaders. So they train you, mold you in leadership. How do they do that? Lots of lectures on leadership in the classroom. Lots of exams on leadership. Then they take you from the classroom into the field, and they give you individually problems. You're Lieutenant Sauer. Now for this problem, you're the platoon commander. You got 47 troops here. Your objective is to attack that hill, run the enemy off, set your troops in, and prepare for a counterattack. That's all they tell you. Now they watch how you do it. And when you run through the problem, they have their instructors running through the problem, taking notes. When it's all over with, they gather everybody together and they say, all right, Lieutenant Sauer, here's what you did right, here's what you did wrong, here's how you can improve. And they exemplify from senior Marine officers, older men. Oh, they just show you what good leadership is. But what does Moody do? Now, I went to the leadership at Moody and said, what do you guys do to ensure that your people you put in authority here are going to be good leaders? What do you do? And they said, yeah, HR has a course in leadership. So I went to HR. You have a course in leadership? Sure do. How many people have taken it the last 20 years? None. Well, why not? It's not mandatory. So I went back to the leaders. And I said, you told me you had a course on leadership. What you didn't tell me, maybe you don't know, nobody has to take it. Now, what person do you think they put in authority at Moody who thinks, I'm not really a good leader. I want to take that course on leadership. Nobody thinks that way. They all assume they're good leaders. And they put some fella in leadership down there, and he was really poor. And I mentioned that to another colleague of mine, and he said, oh, he's a real godly man. That's right. He's really spiritual. But godliness doesn't ensure good leadership. Those are two different things. What ensures good leadership? Wisdom, not godliness. Now, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask of God. Okay, so that's how we get wisdom. So my point here is, like you, I grieve over the state, the condition of this country, and more than that, where we're headed. And I think where we're headed is this way, not this way. I'm really concerned because unless America changes, we are going to come under divine judgment. It is inevitable. Now, I told a fellow the other night, I told him on the phone, now, if you have ears to hear, I want you to listen to the next remark I'm saying to you. If you don't change your treatment of your wife, you will lose your wife. She just went to the lawyer to file for divorce from you. And he's tried to tell me, and he did tell me, oh, I've been doing the best I can to love my wife. It's just her perception of things. And I said, that's nonsense. If you are a loving, caring, gentle, grateful husband, she wouldn't interpret that as selfish on your part, a bully on your part. She knows love when she sees it. And she wouldn't interpret your loving actions to her and words toward her as your hostility. So no, you haven't been trying. I know you, I know her, I know the marriage, and I'm telling you, if you don't change your treatment of your wife, you will lose her. Now, I just see that there are a lot of bad husbands. I'm dealing with 3 others. And men are lazy. They don't want to change. The easy thing is when I hurt Sue, apologize to her, but I don't want to do anything to change in me what made me hurt her in the first place. So she'll forgive me, and it won't be long before I step on her again. Here we go. We're in a vicious circle. We're going nowhere. So now to apply that nationally, if we Americans don't change our attitude, our conduct, where we put our affection and our values, how can God in His holiness sit here like this with arms folded and do nothing to this country? On Assyrian invasion, Babylonian invasion, Roman domination, those are 3 times God destroyed His country and sent the Jews elsewhere, just like He cast Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden. He made a perfect man, gave him a perfect wife, put him in a perfect garden, and the tendency of man is to defile what God has done. God said, everything I created is very good. Well, man takes it and makes it very bad. That's just us. It'll be so good when Jesus comes back and rules the earth in righteousness. We need God to save us from ourselves. The Christian life is God saving me from myself. Now, God needs to rule the earth because man's going to blow it up. Look at all the wars. Man's gotten really good at killing each other. I'm talking about in warfare. Oh, we're really good at that. Now we got atomic bombs and super atomic bombs. And man's going to kill himself and destroy the place if the Lord doesn't come back. So not only does God need to rule a country, He needs to rule this individual. He needs to rule these individuals right here. And to let Him rule us, we have to change. We don't like change. And I don't like having to say no to me. There are plenty of times I want to do something, and I know God doesn't want me to, and I don't want to do what God wants me to. So it's just a matter of pure obedience to God when I know He wants me to do something when I don't want to do it. And I think sometimes the harder it is to obey, the more God looks at it. Now, see here in Nahum that, look, here we have a picture of what's going to happen to this country right here. In these two verses, we have a picture of it. So let's take a quick look at this. Now, God is speaking to Assyria through Nahum, and he says, "You're military officers, O king of Assyria." All right, there's the man in charge right there. He's mainly responsible for this. "Will sleep excessively." Now, sleep. Well, everybody's got to sleep, and everybody needs enough sleep, but look at the word excessively. Your leaders are going to sleep too much. Second line, your administrative officials will lie down. Well, we all need to lie down and take breaks. But they're going to lie down idle. Your people will scatter over the mountains. In other words, bad leadership, when you're shepherds, and notice in the first line, the military officers are called shepherds. Why? Well, those in charge, like military and politicians, in one sense, they're shepherds. They watch over the citizens of a country. They protect them. They provide for them. They make good decisions and lead them well in policies, etc., etc. And so here he says, your people will scatter. So what happens when a shepherd falls asleep or a shepherd is inept? Well, the sheep scatter. They leave. They go in different directions, and now they're really vulnerable because there are wolves out there where the sheep are going. And the sheep are not thinking of wolves. Did you know, I read this week, that the population of Chicago, the last time it was this low was in 1920. Can you believe that? In 1920, the population of Chicago is what it is now. Now, I want to know, why have so many people left the city of Chicago? Why? Okay, basically it's bad leadership. And then we can go into detail. Taxes, crime, nonsense, corrupt politicians. You know, before I ever came to live in Illinois, I knew the reputation of Illinois politicians. They go to prison. Why do you all keep electing people that end up in prison? Why do you all do that? And why is it that people in droves, I hear, are leaving the state of California? Bad leadership. Why are people leaving New York? Even the California state government's trying to make people who leave California still pay income tax back in California. Can you believe that? So here, Assyria, now I think what happened is the Assyrians were incredible soldiers. They conquered the Middle East, and then they went and conquered Egypt. Can you believe that? They conquered so much. They were the most evil people in antiquity. They were considered the ancient Nazis. I mean, they were vicious to the people they conquered. They'd bury them neck deep and just leave them there. They would skin them alive. They'd capture somebody and remove all his skin. Well, of course, he would die in a day or so. And they tortured people as modern Nazis. They were evil. They were really good, though, at conquering. They became so good. Notice that first line, your military officers, O king of Syria, will sleep excessively. Lazy. Now they got overconfident. And that's what happened to Rome. You remember the powerful Roman Empire? They got too lazy to fight. So what did they do? They hired foreigners to be their soldiers who didn't care, and that's one reason Rome fell to the heathen. Verse 19, your injury is serious. Well, that statement right there applies to the United States of America. I hope the next statement doesn't. Your wound is incurable. You Assyrians have passed the point of no return. I will bring judgment upon you. Now it's only a matter of time of when and how I'm going to do that. All who hear the news about you, that is your collapse, will clap their hands in joy. Why? For upon whom has your continual evil not fallen? everywhere throughout the Middle East and to Egypt. You conquered people, killed people, stole their resources. So when you go down the drain, everybody will be applauding your demise. Rasputin, who was he?
He was the advisor to the Tsar.
Yeah, about 1917, somewhere around there, 1913. He was a religious leader, an advisor to the Tsar. And what kind of man was he, being religious? Was he godly?
No.
He was extremely evil. And when he died, one man said, "There really is a God." He attributed his death to God. And I think he was right about that.
He was actually murdered.
Yeah, he was. I think it was poison, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think also they stabbed him, didn't they?
Yeah.
And they almost couldn't kill him. He was so tough. I read the assassination attempt, and they stabbed him and stabbed him, beat him and beat him. The poison didn't really work. And so finally, it must have been God who came down and hit him in the head. Finally, they killed him. Okay, now look on the back of some applications. Number one, a leader is a person who has an influence on others, good or bad. What do you think of when you think of Abraham Lincoln? What do you think of when you think of Adolf Hitler? They're leaders, one good, one bad. Two, the ancient Assyrian leaders were very skilled in military affairs. Accordingly, they formed and trained a powerful army that conquered the Middle East and Egypt. Regarding military matters, they led successfully, at least for a while. Three, but the ancient Assyrian leaders were morally evil. Consequently, they led the nation into moral deterioration. And I think that's what's happening in our country today, is we're going in that way. Where am I? Oh, second line. No, number 4. The Assyrian leaders and their nation had within them the seeds of their own destruction. A man speaks and acts out of the fullness of his own heart. Evil was in them, and it came out and manifested in atrocities toward their victims. 5, a competent leader leads others in the ways of God, in obeying Him, in growing in righteousness, faith, purity, peace, joy, etc. You, Timothy, adopted my conduct, faith, purpose, perseverance. What a wonderful leader Paul must have been, so that those whom he mentored adopted his purposes, his moral standards, his objectives, his faith, his love, his trust. What a wonderful thing. 6, a competent spiritual leader follows Christ and becomes a fisher of men. This spiritual leader is then an example to all believers, and they become imitators first of him and imitators of the Lord. 7, the last generation of ancient Assyrian leaders eventually grew lax and lazy, negligent in their duties. Assyria was destroyed because of their evil and because of their bad leadership. 8, godliness does not ensure good leadership. Wisdom promotes good leadership. If anyone lacks wisdom, he may request it from God. He gives to all people generously and does not fuss at us for asking. 9, to become a good spiritual leader, we must follow Christ, cultivate an humble servant heart, and depend on the Lord for growing in wisdom and asking Him to be our partner in the work divinely assigned us. 10, don't invent the wheel. To become a good leader, you would also benefit by getting the help of a person more experienced in your area of service. So one thing I appreciate about this prayer group is the way you all pray for our country. And we've got to. If we do nothing, our country is going to be destroyed. It's coming under divine judgment. And I don't want to be a part of that. I really prefer not living here when God inflicts His punishment on this country. I have some hope. God said, if I find just 10 righteous people in Sodom, I'll spare the whole place. He couldn't find that many. Now, I don't know what percentage God would want now. I wish you would say, if I could find 10 people.
It was 0.2% of 1%.
Maybe 100, yeah.
10 people was 0.2% of 1%.
Yeah, so the salt of the earth are the people of God. We are the preservators of of the fabric of society, not to credit us, but because God has made us righteous.
I think each one of us is concerned about what we should do right now. We see the situation that you're describing,
Yeah.
that we're in hot water. The question is, what should we really do?
Okay, the most important thing we should be doing is ensuring that day after day we are walking with God and obeying Him. I'm sad that I've contributed some sins to my country. All Americans are sinners, and all sinners contribute sins. And I've contributed more than my share. I just feel so bad about that. In some ways, I've not helped my country. I've added to the detriment of my country. So the first place we begin is I need to make sure today, tomorrow, I am in step with the Lord and pleasing Him. Next thing I need to be doing is what we're doing here, praying together as well as praying as individuals. That God, please bring revival. And let me turn from anything wrong in my life that displeases you and obey you. And then, Lord, convert people. Turn the church back to you wholeheartedly. We need to pray for revival. I really don't think revival is going to happen apart from prayer. And so that's one reason I appreciate you all. I can tell you're really concerned about America and the leaders here and all the problems we've got here that are allowed by bad leadership. Men can go to women's restrooms now. How ridiculous is that? And then we need to vote for good people. They might not, most of them are not going to be Christians. A lot of them are not going to be Christians. But are they moral? What are their policies? We need to educate ourselves about what people believe. We need to spread the information about politicians so that people can vote intelligently. And then whatever God lays on our heart as steps that we can take to contribute to the preservation and God's blessings upon this country. Okay, any questions or comments over these verses?